Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for tuning in again, or welcome if you've never been here before. So, what I want to talk about is filtration and cycling a tank. So, as I keep saying, I've got my philosophy. So, what I'm using in this setup is sponge filters. Not going now because the linear piston air pump makes an absolute racket when it's on, so I have to turn it off to make the videos. So anyway, right, I'm using sponge filters on this system. So what I tend to do, I forgot to bring the bottle out with me, so I use this. That, as far as I'm aware, I've done a lot of research on beneficial bacteria in a bottle, and this one seems to be the best for starting up a new tank. There's another one, is it API Quick Start? By the sounds of it, and from what I've read and stuff, that one will get your ammonia down to zero pretty quickly, but then you'll have a massive spike of nitrites which will just hang around for a while. So if you're using plants, they say it's good for that, but if you're using plants, then you know they're going to get rid of ammonia anyway. So as far as I'm concerned, so what's the point? So what I like to do is I like to get the tank set up, dose some beneficial bacteria, but I don't believe in adding the fish straight away. Like it'll say on the bottle, you can add your fish straight away. Now, if you've got a planted tank with, you could probably get away with, if you've got a big tank like this, you're probably getting away with putting a few little dither fish, like neon tetras or something, or hardy fish. So there'll be enough bacteria to keep them, like a little bit of food, at bay. At the, they'll keep the parameters in check off a little bio load. But you couldn't do something like goldfish, or there's my little wavy screen again. You couldn't do something like goldfish or cichlids or something with a big bio load. You got no chance. Your parameters are skyrocket. So what I like to do is get it set up, get some ammonia in the tank, and then let it start cycling. I'll dose the ammonia quite high at first, and then I'll keep an eye on it, and once it starts coming down, I'll do water changes to bring it right down. And then, for example, if I dose 10 drops and it takes up to 1 ppm, I'll dose 2 drops, and I'll just keep dosing them 2 drops, and I'll keep an eye, and I'll do large water changes. I don't like to let things skyrocket. Like, people will let nitrates go really high when they're cycling a tank, but I don't like to do that because, the theory says that high nitrates, low pH equals ammonia turning into ammonium, potentially. And if you got ammonia turning into ammonium, it's not harmful for the fish, which is great, but the beneficial bacteria won't process ammonium, so it'll just sit in your tank until your pH goes back up, potentially, and then it will pollute the tank with ammonia. No one wants that. So there's that. So I like to keep the parameters where I keep fish. I know from, you've seen this if you've watched the videos, the series, I kind of rushed these out, but the sponge filters were already established. I'd already had the tank doing a fishless cycle for a month before I added the fish, and obviously the filters were mature. And then I put one fish in this tank, kept an eye on it, and then I put the others in, and I've fed as if I'm still feeding the one guy, but I've slowly been increasing it and keeping an eye on it. I've been doing large water changes. I always do large water changes when I bring new fish in and I'm doing quarantine, because if there's something like white spot and there's eggs on the bottom and I've siphoned them all out, I'm winning the fight already. There's things like that. Like there could be flukes in the water that you've brought in. You're doing large water changes. You're getting them out the water before they get on the fish. So that's one of my theories. And then I like to treat as and when I see things, as opposed to, I used to bring the salt up to 0.3%, and I still do. If I have a look for the droppings, or whatever you like to call them, of the goldfish, and if they're white and stringy, I'll tend to dose a dewormer just to help clear the system out. I also sometimes feed peas. I know in the last video I was talking about feeding, I didn't mention peas, but I like to give peas now and again because they're a laxative, but duckweed tends to do that. So feeding duckweed is great. So I'm going to try and get that going. So I'll do back to my cycle. I'll get it cycling, get the fishing, but what I like to do is, people think, yeah, I've got nitrate, that's it, my tank's cycled. But what I like to look out for is diatoms, and I'll let it go through a course of diatoms, let them burn out, and then you tend to get a bloom of green algae. Now that tells you that your tank is starting to go through the process of establishing its ecosystem. And that's when I like to introduce new fish really to a tank. That's when I feel most confident. But I also like to get plants in during it, because I feel like plants, as I was saying in the last video, plants do so much for fish, for water quality. And the more plants you got in there, there's the book written by Diana Wallstad, the Wallstad method. I know that talks about soil, and we can't keep soil with goldfish, because they'll just turn the tank it'll look like hot chocolate, except it'll be cold because the cold water. And then, as I say, I've talked about this tank a few times. I'm going to dose this. I'm running it through a cycle now. There's still ammonia and nitrite. Well, I haven't tested it today. I tested it yesterday, and there was less than 1 ppm of ammonia. I've ordered fertilizer because I'm not going to keep anything in this tank for now, except for the plants, so I'm going to dose it. But as I say, I like to keep plants with fish for the benefits. Plus, goldfish like to eat plant, and I don't mind, if I can grow them out first and then put pieces of plants in and eat that, but I've still got loads of plants in another tank, then it's no big loss. So moving forward, what I'm thinking of doing, I'm kind of debating in my head of, I want to build 2,000 litre ponds, 1,000 litre ponds. I don't know whether to use the 400 litre Intex pools for now, and get some of these sponge filters outside in the summer, once the temperature starts warming up, and then get the goldfish out. And then this will give me a chance to get this tank out, and then move the stand out the way, and then once that's out the way, I can crack on with this bad boy, get this sealed up. I'm going to have to keep an eye on this, because maybe the fish go in there, and then we'll see what goes on. But anyway, this is the project now for early next year. So I've been toying with the idea of building a greenhouse myself, and then taking the tanks out of this and getting them into a greenhouse, because I could have this tank and this tank side by side, and then having 2 4-footers underneath, and I've got a 180 that needs resealing, and I could build a stand and get 2 of them. I've seen quite a few of them on Marketplace. So then I'd have 6 tanks. I'd have 2 tanks for adults that I want to breed, and then I'd have 2 tanks for the fry that I've kept from the summer, potential summer breeds, and I'd have a quarantine system for each fish, or a hospital system, whatever you want to call it. And then I want grow ponds from the summer. So that's the idea I'm playing with at the moment, and I'm not too sure. But I've also got a 7-foot tank outside, which if I built 2 1,000 litre ponds, then that should be about 8 foot. So if I use some of this wood I could put it over the ponds, and I could actually have the tank over the ponds, which would give me more water volume. So that's another idea I'm toying with. So there we go. There's a quick talk on what I like to do with plants and how I like to cycle my tanks. Another thing I'm thinking with the plants, I wouldn't mind getting them out in some sort of pond in the summer, because we all know, you know, sun's the best thing for growing plants, better than any planted light you can get. The bonsai growers will tell you this. You get them plants outside, or them trees, and they grow like crazy. And that's what I'm thinking of doing with plants, getting some sort of little pond outside. Once the weather starts warming up, get them out there, get the fertilizers in there. I'm not sure of how to do it, but I want to try and keep some sort of plant in a system on their own, as I say, to grow out. I haven't come to a conclusion of how I'm going to do it yet, but I would like them in their own tank over winter. I've got a Fluval 3.0 planted light, which is like, for me, it's the best planted light you can get your hands on. So I could get that on this tank. The only problem is it's quite a high wattage compared to these lights, but if they're going to grow plants like crazy, then it's worth it. So anyway, that's my thoughts on my cycle, how I like to keep plants going, and leads me on to something else I've been thinking about, which I'll probably talk about in my next video, and that's potential aquascapes. Anyway, that's it for this week. Take care, look after yourselves, goodbye.